According to his own relatives, he dated several women all at once, without ever assigning a label. Here's the twist though. This is the same individual flew to Haiti with chainsaws and covertly donated $3.5 million to a charity in medical supplies, as well as purchased a $9,000 engagement ring for a veteran in need couple. The man who was unable to commit to a single person yet made a commitment to saving the life of the man behind Fast and Furious was far more difficult, more than a screenplay for a motion picture. On September 12, 1973, Paul Walker was born in weighing slightly more than 7 pounds, from Glendale, California. His father was a construction worker, foreman earning roughly $45,000 annually. Additionally, his mother used to walk the runways of the 1960s in Los Angeles. They resided in a small half-story home nestled in Glen. Paul and his 4 siblings were raised in Oaks Canyon on a limited budget and with basic routines. Paul was just 4 years old, went to Leo Carrillo Beach for a family camping trip and fell in love with the water. He was unwilling to get out of the sand. Something in him altered on that trip. The Walkers made their way back to the shore each month, eking out $50 each time since they witnessed how much it enchanted him. After 2 years, everything was different. A scout saw Paul, a child, having a fit at a Toys R Us in Glendale. A few weeks later, he appeared in a nationwide Pampers commercial, crawling around a living room. $5,000 was paid for the job, almost $27,000 in today's currency, and it sparked a chain reaction. At age 10, he had completed more than 200 ads and brought in $180,000 for his family. Only California law demanded that they set aside 15% of it. Thus, the remaining funds were used to settle their home. It may sound unbelievable, but for the Walkers, this was stardom wrapped around survival. The soap operas followed. Paul was cast in The Young and the Disenchanted at the age of 10. Agitated, he played a rock star's adopted kid and earned $1,500 every episode, but his world was collapsing behind the cameras. The marriage of his parents broke under the strain of disputes about money and careers. They parted ways in 1985. His father left home. Paul shared a small flat with his mother and brothers, Riverfront Drive, which cost $675 per month. He missed days of filming. Crew members noticed his radiant smile fade. His character was written off in the same month of the performance. The divorce was finalized. Paul clicked the pause button by high school. He attended Village Christian School in 1987 before going missing while performing for 3 years. He immersed himself in marine biology, dissected squid over his lunch periods, and placed third in an 8.7 in a junior surfing tournament. I'd write in his yearbook, "I would rather keep one seal intact than sign one autograph." Nobody was aware that he had preview slips to career that paid $2,840 by applying for 5 ranger positions with the National Park Service a year. Just reefs and peaceful coasts, no red carpets. Following graduation, Paul delivered pizzas at Domino's in 1991 while driving his mother's ancient Honda, making roughly $340 per week. However, side jobs called. He got a GQ after modeling for Teen Beat. He received $2,500 for a spread titled California Boys. A huge storm swept through that same summer to Zuma Beach. Nevertheless, Paul paddled out, pursuing 12-foot swells. He was pulled out 200 yards by a riptide. He almost drowned. It took 7 frightful minutes before a lifeguard dragged him out. Paul Beckham Dark. He wasn't afraid when he woke up coughing up seawater. He was fixated. He obtained his scuba diving certification 2 weeks later. His initial 60 feet below Catalina Island, the dive took place. He enrolled to Cal that fall, Long Beach State. The desire of marine biology persisted, but Hollywood and money pulled more forcefully. He scheduled $800 concerts, maintained those Marines, and modeled for catalogs. Even after leaving school in 1993, textbooks, on film sets years later, he'd still in between takes, flip through them. He began practicing Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu covertly in 2004, arriving at 6:00 morning, 3 times a week for exercise, just mats and bruises. No red carpet tales, and self-control that nobody noticed. Then Disney called. In 1998, Paul earned $150,000 as the star of Meet the Beatles. Despite the movie's failure, Paul, a taker who nearly fractured his ankle performing his own jet ski stunts just 1 take. Insurance went into a panic. He dismissed it. After a year, he was selected as the backup quarterback for the Varsity Blues. The accent is incorrect, though the director detested it. Paul thus went missing on the weekends, visited Texas high schools, filmed children speaking, and paid $50 per hour for a speech coach. He was correct. No one was aware that he had never played football league prior to that shoot. Things darkened by the year 2000. He starred in The Skulls as a secret society thriller. Paul was getting ready for the part. Speaking with actual fraternity members, I discovered falsehoods, simulated drownings, sleep deprivation, and He was deeply affected by the tales, particularly at the pool initiation scene. He insisted on actual submersion and rejected a stunt duplicate. Every take left he was breathless and terrified, but he claimed it felt genuine. he was for Black Hawk Down. Fort Benning provided for weeks of training. During the 48-hour no-sleep training, the majority of performers passed out. Paul didn't. He marched in 110 heat while toting 60-pound equipment across the Moroccan desert. He lost 12 pounds while getting ready. Those similar survival abilities would emerge years later, once more, in Haiti, not on a set. The Fast and the Furious underwent a transformation in 2001. Everything. Walker's portrayal of Brian O'Connor, the undercover police officer assisted the over $27 million is made worldwide by the film. For the first time, he only earned $1 million. Film. He created the sequel in the same way. However, when the franchise took off, so did his salary, $7 million by 2009, and $15 million for each of the following 3 movies. However, Paul invested in shark research rather than lavishing wealth on homes or boats, refusing to discuss it. They made a covert donation to marine conservation. He wasn't seeking notoriety. He was seeking meaning. He became a member of a National Geographic crew off the coast of Mexico to tag great white sharks. It was not staged. He was collecting blood samples, transporting 2,000-pound predators into cradles, entering to keep them alive while wiring tracking devices. He cherished it. There are things more alien in the ocean than in space. He once remarked, thought so. Without Vin, Paul Walker took center stage in 2003. Fast, Too Furious and 2 Diesels. To see if Brian O'Connor could carry a film by himself, the entire globe watched. The response was quick, $236.4 million globally. However, the numbers weren't the only thing that is accelerating. John Singleton, the director, wanted more than just vehicle chases. He desired dirt, perspiration and meat. Walker was forced to train with Ricardo Frania Miller in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Furthermore, it wasn't merely for the questioning scene's spectacle. It was visible to you. Not staged nonsense, but actual grappling. He would obtain a brown belt after training at Paragon Academy since 2001. The chase scene on the highway. It was more than just camera wizardry. Walker struck 120 mares. In actual takes. He even assisted in modifying the legendary Nissan Skyline GTR specifications R34 by himself. When you witnessed Brian smack a perp or skid around a curve, it was Walker was driven by pure horsepower, desire, and accuracy. After 2 years thine into the blue, the ocean served as his playground. Jarrett Cole was more than a character. It was Walker reviving his fascination with marine life from his early years. He completed extensive scuba training to get ready. Certification and then did over 130 dives whilst filming in the Bahamas. But when he free dives to a 60-foot holding in cold coral species, he wasn't acting more than 2 minutes of his breath. It was true. The chemistry with the co-star was really good. Alba Jessica, they performed about half of their stunts without the use of doubles. And Walker didn't when the cameras stopped. He spent breaks on beach cleanups, collaborated with local scientists, and contributed $20,000 of his personal funds to the rehabilitation of coral. Each image of it felt real to watch him glide across azure waves. He didn't simply play a diver, he turned into one. Next up was Tokyo Drift. Additionally, Walker didn't. His fingerprints were all over the frame of the headline. He just had 2 days toss spent on the set of his unexpected appearance. However, he continued to steer behind the scenes the franchise. From technical consults to phone conversations with director Justin Lin about suspension settings, he contributed to the veracity of the movie. He advocated for the importation of authentic Nissan Silvia's 15s from Japan, despite the fact that they were connected into his network of Japanese tuning shops and were prohibited in the United States. Make it happen. In order to ensure that Brian O'Connor's character would remain in the film, he even went over some of the writing cores in the upcoming movies. Walker refused to utilize doubles for the animal scenes and spent 3 months training with the Huskies. He became close to them, so closely that he adopted 2, Ty and MSA, bringing them home to California later. He gave $47,000 to the Atadero group and discreetly covered the cost of medicinal treatments for old sled dogs, something that only came to light after his death. Set in Alaska, the Durlin temperature fell to 40 degrees. Others rushed to hot trailers, although Walker and the dogs remained outside together. One husky suffered frostbite. Walker covered the cost of the emergency care. The film grossed $120.5 million. However, the warmth that existed between a man and his group of silent frost-covered friends was its legacy. Next came the grim 2007 thriller Death and Life of Bobby Z, which had a $12 million budget and no glitzy franchise safety net. Walker portrayed former Marine Tim Cerny, drawn into a world of mistaken identities and prison brawls. Now, this was his playground, a deconstructed, low-budget venue where his training in martial arts might be the main attraction. He would spend 6 years learning Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and they applied that knowledge to every scenario. In a single battle, had taught grappling skills to Lawrence Fishburne, ensuring that each guard pass and grip appeared authentic. Walker didn't wish to be ostentatious. He wanted true. He even rode his own waves, taking care of everything. Board job himself, in spite of the limited budget for the production. In theaters, the film barely brought in $6.4 million. However, he was never troubled by that. This wasn't about box office anymore. It concerned craft, about pushing boundaries, about spotting the truth amid the cacophony. By 2006, Walker's work off-screen was just as rigorous. Constantly changing wasn't a catchphrase. Co-founded with Roger Rouse, it was an actual store. Hidden there was a dream garage with almost 30 automobiles beneath that name. Mustangs, Ferraris, Porsches, and a series of eye-catching skylines that left admirers salivating. A BMW Boss 302 from 1970 M1, including an uncommon Volvo P1800. Not only did he possess them, but he also adjusted, tuned, and put them to the test. The collection was once visited by Matt Farah, who kept it a secret until Walker's passing. Following the 2013 crash and the ship, disputes arose, with Walker's father asserting his son held a sizable portion. The store had been more than a company. It served as a second skin, a lab, and a haven. He didn't purchase vehicles to flaunt, to feel alive. He purchased them. Next followed Fast and 2009's Furious. That was the moment when everything came roaring back. Published in April 3rd, with $72.5 million in its first weekend alone. The reunion with Vin Diesel exceeded all expectations, blowing beyond Tokyo Drift's whole domestic run. With $360.40, it closed $1 million globally, which at the time was the most in the franchise. Critics were spectators didn't care that it was lukewarm. They were drawn to the vehicles, the feats, the enthusiasm, as well as for Brian O'Connor. Walker was racing again while wearing the FBI jacket, through 240 unique cars and a plot that made him feel important and intent. It was no longer just about speed. It has to do with revenge, confidence, and the growing relationship with Dom Toretto. And at the center of everything was Walker, steady hands on the wheel that never stopped going. Even in movies like 2010's Taker's Headclan to Coast, Walker plunged into the world as a suave bank robber. Numerous robberies of armored cars, displaying a keen sense of accuracy and a sense of criminal confidence. Detractors, he appeared to be reading from cue cards, according to some. However, Walker remained unfazed. He had no intention of being a thespian. He was displaying a different side, an additional layer. The central heist, which cost $25 million, was sleek, fashionable, and well-packed with strain. He demonstrated with each shotgun fire and rooftop chase that even you could still lean forward in your seat if you weren't in the Fast universe. Paul's life was completely transformed by Fast 5. Walker the film made $86.2 million when it debuted in the US, $626.1 million globally. For the first time, he was more than simply the attractive police officer with the fast automobile. He turned into the genius behind a global robbery, racing through Rio's streets with a group of people who were more like family. Nor was he playing the physical part. In the background, Paul was trained under Ricardo Frania Miller in California, covertly obtaining his brown belt in Brazilian Jiu. He took it seriously. He would roll on the mats in the morning and appear in a movie that was set by. His movements throughout the battle scenes were influenced by that training. You could sense it. In fact, Forbes ranked him as the 6th highest earning actor of 2013. Fast 5 was at large. Then came Vehicle 19, which was riskier and quieter. For a 95-minute low-budget thriller, Paul traveled from Hollywood sets to the streets of Johannesburg, South Africa, where he hardly got out of the wheel. He was driving in almost every picture, through actual places, performing his own stunts, and even slamming a car into a window of a supermarket. No safety net, no large teams. The rawness was what he desired. He was also the film's executive producer, helping to shape it from beginning to end. The director, according to Mukunda Michael Dull, they had greater flexibility there than in Los Angeles while filming. Paul wanted more than a paycheck. He desired authority. Then hours passed. No explosives, no cars. Just a dad trapped in a Hurricane Katrina caused a hospital in New Orleans to flood, manually using a ventilator to maintain his early daughter still alive. Paul appeared in all of the scenes. No glitter, no trailer breaks. Simple mental burden, difficult shots, and long days. Interviewers were informed that it was the most difficult character he had ever played, more difficult than anything else. The movie debuted in March 2013, South by Southwest. On December 13th it was released in theaters. Paul never observed it. He passed away on November 30th, just 2 weeks prior. The 6th installment of Fast and Furious, like a tempest. $789 million globally. Of it, about $240 million came from the United States. Paul, however, didn't care about money, not at all. Brian, his character, was evolving into he was also a father. Paul moved in with his daughter Meadow in 2011. He lives in California full-time. That changes emotional impact throughout the movie. In the background, he was advising Vin Diesel on parenthood, stating that the finest day of your life will be the day he cuts the cord at birth. Life. He became Diesel's children's godfather. It was real, not a role. Life depicted on the television. Then the unimaginable occurred. Paul had left. Production of Furious 7 stopped midway through. Everything came to a halt. They had to rethink the movie when it started up again. Honor him, not simply get things done. Caleb and Cody, his siblings, intervened. They weren't actors. They had no intention of being, however, with assistance from Paul was carried to the finish line by acting coaches, motion capture, and meticulous lighting.